everyone, Tina here, and today I'd like to talk about graph transformations. I'll go through the rules for the graph transformations first, and then we'll take a look at some examples. Okay, so here are the rules, and I've split them into two parts. One is for the changes in the y direction, so that's like a vertical change, and the other side is for changes in the x direction, so a horizontal change. If we start with the change in the y direction side, that's when your numbers or your negative symbol are outside the brackets. So for example, if you had y equals f of x plus 2 on the outside, that means you're going to move the graph up by 2. If you had a minus 3 on the outside, you're going to move the graph down by 3. As you can see here, I've written transformation acts in the way you expect. In other words, plus 2 goes up and minus 3 goes down, following the direction of the y-axis. If you have a minus on the outside of your f of x, that's referring to a reflection. So because we said it's a change in the y direction, the y coordinate is going to change. It's going to flip or reflect. And that means it's going to reflect in the x-axis. So let's write that down. So y changes, that means we are reflecting in the x-axis. That one can be a little bit confusing, but if you think about it as y changing, you will see that that's a reflection that way. If we move on to the changes in the x direction, the horizontal change, this time your numbers or your negative symbol are going to be inside the brackets. So for example, if you have a plus 2 inside the bracket, that actually means you're going to move left 2. I know that's a bit counterintuitive, but that's the way it works. And similarly, if you've got x minus 3 inside the bracket, that means you're going to move right 3. Comment here says that the transformation acts in the opposite way to what you expect, because this time a plus 2 is actually going left and a minus 3 is going right. So that feels counterintuitive and goes in the opposite way to the x-axis. As long as you're aware of that, it should be okay. Now, let's say you've got a minus inside the bracket with the x. This is another reflection, but this time x is changing. So it's going to move like this, and the reflection is actually going to be in the y-axis. X changes. This is all changes in the x direction, and that means we're going to reflect in the y-axis. So now we've seen the rules, let's take a look at some examples. Example 1, we've got a diagram here showing part of a curve with equation y equals f of x, and the coordinates of the maximum point are 3, 5. We want to write down the coordinates of the maximum point of the curve with equation, first of all, y equals f of x plus 3, x plus 3 inside the brackets. So this looks like a horizontal change, and that always acts in the opposite way to what you think. So a plus 3 is actually going to move the graph left 3. If you think about that in terms of the coordinate, that's going to go to 0, 5. Part 2, y equals minus f of x, with the minus being on the outside of the brackets. So that's a change in y, one of the reflections where y changes. So if you think about that on the diagram, that point is going to flip down and go down there. So the coordinates will be 3, minus 5. Last part, y equals f of minus x, but the minus is inside the brackets. So that means x is changing, but it's still a reflection, and it's this one. So x is changing, reflecting in the y-axis. So if we draw that, it would be something like this. And if you think about where that coordinate would go, now it would be minus 3, 5. Example 2, we've got the graph of sine x between negative 180 and 180 degrees. And they want us to sketch the graph of y equals sine x minus 2. So minus 2, that's outside the bracket. So that's a change in the y direction. And that's acting in the way we would expect. So we're going to go 2 down. Now, before you try to sketch the sine graph, it's probably a good idea just to mark on a few coordinates to help you draw it. So everything's shifting down by 2. So let's do that first. So that's going to go there. This one is going to go there. This one's going to go there. This one's going to go there. And that will go down there. Once you're happy with the placement of your points, you can draw your curve. Last example, so there's no graph or picture this time, just a bunch of words. It says the graph of y equals f of x is transformed to give the graph of y equals minus f of x plus 3. The point A on the graph of y equals f of x is mapped to the point P on the new graph, and the coordinates of point A are 9, 1, and our job is to find the coordinates of P on the transformed graph. Now, this consists of 2 different transformations, but we should do the brackets first, just like in BODMAS or BIDMAS. So let's make a note. We're going to do brackets first, and then we're going to deal with that minus. So inside the brackets, we've got x plus 3. Remember, that means we're going to go 3 left. So if we start with our point 9, 1, think about what would happen if you go 3 left And if you visualize that, you will see it will go to 6, 1. Then we can deal with our minus on the outside, and that's a reflection in the x-axis, y changing. So let's see what happens to the coordinates. That's going to be, as we said, reflection, y changes. And that's going to mean the coordinate changes to 6 and then minus 1. And that's it. That's it for now. If you found this video useful, please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And please do share this with anyone else that you think might find it helpful. Thanks, and see you next time.